Rip through the clouds, faster, catch us from falling close to the ground. Perish or try to fight it, parachute now. Last chance, the final moment, parachute now and deliver us to the ground. I wanna pull the string, on and on, I feel the speed. Too far to break from pressure, too much to bend the speed.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 20 of the Chris Perish podcast. My name is Chris Perish. Gotta love that intro by Downstate. Thank you so much, guys, for doing that. I appreciate it. Yeah, let's get right to it. Want to give a big thanks to Turnbuckle Studios, the working relationship with the Chris Perish podcast. You can check them out every Monday for the Raw Patrol, where they survey the wrestling scenes with Monday Night Raw. I'm in on every Tuesday, 8:05 p.m. Eastern. Come check out. I believe this week, Carl Carafel and Chris Best will be hosting Turnbuckle Talk. And then that also opens the platforms for other shows like The Boar's Nest with Bubba Duke and OMD. And then the Saturday Night Gaming with Chris Best. And I also want to give a shout out to my affiliate, RogueEnergy.com, where if you want to use the promo code PERISH, PERISH, you can save yourself 10% on all orders. Now, if anybody's wondering, why does your lip look a little weird? Oh, I went to the dentist yesterday, got a filling done. They froze my gum, and then I bit my lip. And now it's fat, a little fat. So, yeah, the fun part of me always messing around with my own body. That sounds bad, but yeah, I gave myself a fat lip. So that is why I have a fat lip. You can have fun with that comment as much as you will. And since I talked about how I just, I'm weird with myself, let's go straight into TNA, where they had their show Rebellion last night, and we saw the returns of Mike Santana, Sami Callihan, and the broken one, Matt Hardy. Now, Matt Hardy has gone on the record in saying that he is not signed anywhere, and that was just an appearance made. He is open to multiple appearances with TNA. He's open to a return with AEW. He's even open to going somewhere else. So he's still a free agent. That was not him signing a contract as of yet. Now, that is still an open possibility. But as of right now, Matt Hardy is not contractually signed to TNA, but he is making appearances. So good for him. It was a very good surprise, and I thought it kept a very open-ended kind of moment to Rebellion when he kind of did what Nick Nemeth did after Moose defeated Alex Shelley for that championship. And then Nick Nemeth came out behind him and attacked him. And Matt Hardy did pretty much the same thing after Moose defeated Nick Nemeth. And then we saw Matt Hardy kind of end the show holding that TNA World Championship. Championship I got to see firsthand just a couple weeks ago with the Pure Power Wrestling show. Absolutely amazing looking championship. And Moose is just a really great human being. So, yeah, that was a great moment. Mike Santana going back to TNA, I thought was really cool. And I just, that was also a good surprise. The pop he got, very well worth it. So good for him and good for Mike Santana. I thought that was just absolutely fantastic. So really happy to see Mike Santana back in TNA. I think that's a good place for him. And he now gets to shine on his own 2 feet. And I think that's going to be very interesting to see. He didn't really get a good chance to do that in AEW. And he was always, as we all know, he was always in that tag team with Ortiz. So it's nice to see kind of now where Mike Santana is going to go as Mike Santana. So that's going to be a fun little aspect to see in TNA. And then we also saw the return of Sami Callihan. And I don't know if, although that was a surprise, the fact that it came at the end of a women's match, I just thought overrode that. So not a giant fan of the timing of that. But at the same time, I think Sami Callihan should be in TNA. I think that is his place to be. I think he makes 0 sense in WWE, and he's just lost in the shuffle in AEW. But I think TNA and him just work. So interested to see what he does next. I personally just wouldn't have had him return like at the end of a women's match. I just thought that was not the best timing, but hopefully, and maybe he does something with the women involved, that would be interesting. Although they're really interesting to see Steph DeLander not in a. Sorry, it was weird to see her in a show not with Matt Cardona. That was a little strange. Haven't seen Steph DeLander on her own for a while, so it was kind of a nice thing to see, but at the same time, it felt a little weird. You just get a little used to the pairing of her and Matt Cardona. So, yeah, really weird. Want to wish Matt Cardona a speedy recovery in his from his surgery from a torn pec. A lot of surgeries being taken place, as we now know. Seth Rollins just underwent surgery for a grade 2 torn meniscus on Tuesday, confirmed by his wife Becky Lynch on an interview. She mentioned that he worked WrestleMania 40 with a grade 2 torn meniscus. Not only a 45-minute tag match on night 1, but followed by a 20-minute match on night 2, and then part of the main event there. Footage came, and you saw him have real troubles just getting into the ring for when he did that Shield kind of part. And the fact that all he did was just give it his all and make sure that he helped not only Roman Reigns, but Cody Rhodes. I mean, hats off to Seth Rollins. What a warrior. I mean, at the end of the day, how can you just not respect guys that just put it all on the line? And when I say put it all on the line, he put it all on the line. Everything he can. Not one thing he did benefited him and his stock. It all helped other people. But at the end of this day, you take notice and then you appreciate him even more. So yes, it does help him, but he didn't do it with the intention of helping him. He did it with the intention of helping everybody else. So with that being said, I say, WWE, you pay that guy whatever he wants, because he will lay it on the line for you every single time. We also got news that TNA could be looking to sign Tessa Blanchard. This is a very controversial thing, because I'm not going to get into why Tessa Blanchard hasn't been working, but I want to focus on kind of what she brings, because I don't know if I personally would sign her. I think there's a lot of things that would have to happen first. However, you can't argue that she doesn't have talent that isn't welcome to a promotion. It's just everything else that comes with it is a question mark. So at this end, at this point of the junction, you kind of rather walk away from the potential headache than invest in the potential home run. Because let's face it, when it comes to the wrestling aspect, Tessa Blanchard is very good. And she very well could have gone to a WWE and done a program with Charlotte Flair that would have been big. And it would have been cool. Imagine if they tag teamed together. Man, like, think about the power of that. When you think of like what the tag team of Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill could be, Tessa Blanchard and Charlotte Flair could be that and some. But with the controversy and the straight up ignorance that came with her years past, I don't know if this world or even the individuals still forgive her. So it's a very hard situation to kind of deal with, because the talent definitely is there. It's just everything else is a pass. So I'm interested to see what TNA does, because they are running a wave of momentum right now. So I want to see kind of how that is handled. You'd have to think if one Scott D'Amore was still there, if he would still be interested in this. Not too sure. But speaking of a woman who actually could return, talking about Rhea Ripley, in about 3 to 4 months' time, she will return to the WWE, as she was forced to vacate her Raw Women's Championship, or her World Women's Championship, on Monday due to an AC sprain, I believe it was. It's going to require her to be out for a few months. I think what I was hearing was 3 months, but a freak accident is also what I was hearing. Is just it's just not something that you expect to see, but it's also something that is very unfortunate. But it did occur in a backstage segment with Liv Morgan. It wasn't the chair shot. It was, from what I understand, when she was thrown against the wall, she just landed very awkwardly on her shoulder when she went into that wall. So very unfortunate news, but you have to also think that when she does come back, and you saw that promo on Monday, and how much emotion was in there, just how much passion, just how much that she gave, and that's exactly what you want to see almost everyone give on a promo. That place is going to erupt when the Eradicator returns. And you know Rhea Ripley's time as a heel in WWE for this run is over. So I do believe that on this Monday, when they do the Battle Royal to determine the new World Women's Champion, as Chris is saying, she's going to be a big babyface upon her return. 100%. I do think the right move is for Liv Morgan to win. And I think the right move is for Liv Morgan to win in a dirty fashion. I think you put your second biggest babyface in there. I think your final four should be Liv Morgan, Nia Jax, Becky Lynch, and one of either Chelsea Green or Ivy Nile. I say Chelsea Green because if you need Becky Lynch to get an elimination out there, you do it. But I say Ivy Nile because if you want to have a dark horse, someone who you know isn't going to win but ups their stock, I think Ivy Nile's the perfect person for this situation. You have Becky and Nia almost they try to eliminate each other. It's not working. Ivy Nile then does the power move and eliminates both of them, and she gets there, right? But in that mindset, maybe you have Liv Morgan, maybe she fakes an injury, maybe she's just taking too much time not in the ring, but something to the point where you actually question the way she wins that championship and that match. But she would then dump Ivy Nile over. Now, what you're doing is twofold. One, you're creating that little bit of hatred for the Liv Morgan character, but then also you're given that open-ended kind of way to have somebody challenge for Liv Morgan during the time that Rhea isn't there. So by the time Rhea does come back, you want her to beat up Liv Morgan the way Liv Morgan did to her, causing the situation to begin with. And I think that's how you go about it. Now, we have a draft starting on Friday. It starts on SmackDown this time. It goes on SmackDown this upcoming Friday, and then the Monday in 8 days. That's the day that finishes it off. And my best bet is that after Backlash, the Raw after Backlash is when everything goes into effect. I'm going to presume that is how it's going to be. I will keep Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley on that same show. And yes, I'm making sure that Rhea Ripley is drafted. Even though in the past, they have used the cop-out that injured superstars are not eligible for the draft. I think you do it. I think everyone should be drafted. I think you should see maybe 10 to 15 on each brand drafted within the 2 shows. And then you should have, or sorry, even on all 3 shows, because NXT is involved. But then you have kind of that compensatory where everyone else is drafted. It's almost like on the NFL, because one of the things that I read was the reason why the timing of the draft is the way it is because WWE wants to capitalize on the draft fever, which we'll see starting Thursday with the NFL draft, which we all know Monday Night Raw and the NFL go head to head when the NFL season on, and that is usually the only thing that dominates Monday Night Raw in the ratings. Not a lot else does, if anything. So when you watch the draft on Thursday, you only get round 1, and then you have other rounds on other days. It's the same thing with hockey, where you'll see 1 or rounds 1. Sometimes I think back in the day, maybe it was rounds 1 and 2 on one day, and then you got the rest on another day. That's what I want to see kind of this year with WWE. I want them to draft. Let's go a solid 8 and 7. So maybe 7 on SmackDown, 8 on Raw. Just added, more people are going to be drafted on Raw. It's a longer show, right? Makes sense? But then you got to stay on social media. Maybe it's like a WWE show, or maybe you see something throughout the week, or maybe you have Adam Pearce, Nick Aldis in a war room with Ava Raine. Sorry, I keep forgetting about NXT being a part of this. I think it's awesome NXT is part of this, but you have them in a war room or something like that, and they finish it off. And maybe you make that a footage on behind the scenes, and then maybe you see a behind the scenes look on the draft on a special down the road. Because this is the first time Triple H really is doing the draft the way he really wants. First draft without Vince. I guess now everything is the first time without Vince. So you want to maybe make it different. You want to make it better. This is your opportunity to do so. The draft is going to be a lot of fun. Also, next week on the Chris Perish podcast, if you've seen me in the past before, you've noticed that I love fantasy drafts. I have done shows where we've done a fantasy draft of the entire WWE roster. So what I'll be doing is I'll be bringing on 2 people that we will be revealing through the week. So make sure you're checking on not only my socials, but possibly even tomorrow's Raw Patrol, where you could see the people who meet. But we're all going to represent a brand. And what we're going to do is we're going to draft. And we're going to draft around 20 to 25 people. And then on that spot, we are going to talk about and review what we did while we book our own show, which we will then put up to a vote from our audience to see who has the show you're wanting to watch. Now, the parameters are really easy. If I'm choosing for NXT, I have all the titles that NXT carries. If you're on Raw or SmackDown, same thing applies. Now, nobody will have a woman's tag team because the women's tag titles are throughout the entire brand. So what we do, we will have to come up with one team who will then be a triple threat match for those championships. And again, the audience will choose who wins that match. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be intriguing. It could get boring if you do not like fantasy draft. However, the one thing that's fun is I'm opening up banter. I'm opening up playful banter. But it's going to be a fun time. Speaking of kind of making things new and deciding to change from the past, on Monday and Friday on Raw and SmackDown, we were blessed finally with new tag team titles. Not only with new tag team titles, but we got official names for these tag team titles. The Raw tag team titles are now known as the World Tag Team Champions. And the titles they had are represented with are a circular version of kind of the World and Women's World title. Similar design work, exact same font. You see the banners of the font with a red background. And then you have the globe with the WWE logo in the middle. Side plates with the side plates, obviously, those little aspects. It's the same side plates that you have with the world title that, you can replace the plates with for whoever's holding the title. That is on actually both sets of titles. But on SmackDown, the SmackDown Tag Team titles are now being renamed the WWE Tag Team Champions. And that was more of a throwback to the old late 80s, early 90s tag team titles. Yeah. Some say it's the Bulldog titles, but it's more of that. If you're aware of the Hartford Whalers logo, that outline. So it looks like a big fat W, or the old school outline of a goalie crease. And that's all. But yeah, it has a lot more details than those championships do. Has a couple, I believe it's lions kind of coming from both sides of the main plate. Very much a throwback to those tag team championships. And yeah, has the crown on the top too. The only critique I would have, maybe just add a little bit of color to that globe, make it a little blue, just to let it pop a little bit. It's pure gold, which, don't get me wrong, I don't hate gold. It's kind of my thing. I think the titles are beautiful. If you're asking me to pick one, which one I like more, it's easily the WWE Tag Team titles. But yeah, we finally have new designs, new names, and a direction for the Tag Team Championships. And what I loved, what they did on both shows, is they crowned number one contenders for those championships. They rewarded the champions with those new titles and then followed it up with a number one contenders match where we saw DIY become the new number one contenders to Awesome Truth's World Tag Team Championships. And then we saw the Street Profits become the number one contender to Eight Town Down Under WWE Tag Team titles. I hope both those matches are for Backlash, because if so, Backlash is starting to look like a pretty good PLE. Already announced, we have main event Jey Uso one-on-one for the first time ever for the WWE World Heavyweight title, going up against champion Damian Priest in his first title defense. We will also see the phenomenal AJ Styles challenge the new WWE Undisputed Universal Champion Cody Rhodes in his first title defense. Now, if we add the tag team title matches to that, now our first four matches will be title matches. Safe to say, we will probably be getting Chad Gable versus Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental title after Sami Zayn defeated Chad Gable on Raw in Montreal, only to be attacked after the match by Chad Gable. I mean, who could have predicted that? But if you wanted to keep this going, what better way to do that? And how much sympathy did that just give Sami Zayn, not only in his hometown, but he's kissing his wife right when Chad Gable scoops him up and German suplex him on his head on the outside. But now Chad Gable, someone who has looked at a guy that he can't beat, who ended up doing the one thing that he also failed at, and that was defeat Gunther for that Intercontinental Championship, help train him, and then just can't get the job done. The jealousy, the envy, the hatred, all that was shown in Chad Gable's face as he had him in an ankle lock on the top rope to end the show on Monday night. I mean, if we're going to get just a machine of destruction and just pure aggression from Chad Gable, very similar to what Kurt Angle was, sign me up. Also being rumored that Chad Gable is going to be no longer with the Alpha Academy, but then potentially join up with the Creed brothers to form a new faction. So again, if this doesn't scream Team Angle 2.0, but something you want to see, come on now. My thing is, if the Creed brothers go in this direction, I'm not going to ask you about the one thing that we've been seeing. We've been seeing a tag team form between Maxine Dupree and Ivy Nile. Now, Chad Gable would go from one tag team that Maxine Dupree was with in Alpha Academy, whether it was the duo of Otis and Chad or Otis and Tozawa. It could be pairing up with the one that Ivy Nile was always associated with. How is that going to work? Is one of them going to turn heel? Is Ivy Nile going to turn heel too? I don't know. I'd really throw my wrench in my plans for the Battle Royal out the window, but I guess we'll see. It's only just a rumor too, but it's one that I think would be amazing. What we also saw on SmackDown was the rise of Solo Sikoa. The SmackDown last week that came after WrestleMania 40, we saw Solo Sikoa basically kick out Jimmy Uso from the Bloodline and bring in Tama Tonga, who he now refers to as MFT. A lot of speculation on what the meaning is, and no official word on what MFT stands for. My theory, it stands for My Family Tree. And I think this is Solo taking what Roman said, and that is, you are next in line to be the tribal chief, seriously. Because now, Roman is not there. He is no longer champion. But how does the bloodline stay afloat? Well, Solo Sikoa has stepped up, and it seems like he has assumed the role of the new tribal chief. And if you look at Solo Sikoa's background, what he was almost the forgotten son. Because you saw Jay and Jimmy Uso always come into WWE. You saw them all the time. They cared about their match at WrestleMania, but, nobody asked why doesn't Solo have a match. Nobody asked about Solo when the Usos made their WWE debut. It was much later Solo Sikoa came in the mix. Therefore, he was always the forgotten son. So my theory is that he's bringing in a new version of the bloodline based on who he believes is in a similar situation with him. Brings in Tama Tonga. Tama Tonga wasn't somebody even WWE had on their radar, as he was always in New Japan. And I'm saying this based on a story. This could be just the backstory, not real. Because I'm sure WWE wanted Tama Tonga. But just go with me on this story. But Tama Tonga, he never rocked Sky. He was rocking Roman, right? Roman's boys with the Usos. So, Solo is with Tama Tonga. Brings in Tama Tonga because he makes sure that Tama Tonga is not forgotten about. Maybe he'll bring in a Jacob Fott too, because he is somebody not so much we've forgotten about, but not somebody you're thinking of when it comes to the bloodline. Thus creating a new version of the bloodline. Very similar to when Shawn Michaels lost to Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 14. The very next night on Monday Night Raw, Triple H knew he had to assume the leader of D-Generation X. So he went to his friends, he went to his blood. He brought in X-Pac, he brought in the New Age Outlaws, and he reformed D-Generation X. Slowly, something very similar with Solo Sikoa and the Bloodline. Right when Roman Reigns loses the title at WrestleMania, he's nowhere to be found. He assumes the role, and he starts making the changes that suit him. SmackDown was very heavily invested on Solo Sikoa. He comes to the venue, wanted to see where Kevin Owens is, and they end up leaving Kevin Owens in a pool of his own blood by the show's end. Very much through the hands of Tama Tonga, who, from what we saw, hit Kevin Owens' rental car with his own. And they continued to beat down in the ring. Now, what I love is the usage of Nick Aldis in this episode of SmackDown because, one, he said he was not standing for this type of behavior. On his show, they settle it in the ring. So he tells Paul Heyman that if they don't cooperate, losing isn't the only thing that will have consequences. So puts his foot down. He also, earlier in the show, when Triple H unveiled the new WWE Tag Team titles to Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, instead of getting a handshake from the tag team, A-Town Down Under decide to handshake themselves instead of Triple H. And Nick Aldis stepped in and told them not to disrespect Triple H again. So I love the old school mentality here. I love the respect. Chris Best is coming in and saying Nick had a bit of an attitude to him on SmackDown, and I liked it. And yeah, you got that firm, this is the line. You want to act past it, you're going to pay. Remember, he's also the same guy that's fined Randy Orton for RKO'ing him. What I want to see post-draft is if we don't see Adam Pearce anymore with Chelsea Green, this is a dynamic I want to see. I want to see Chelsea Green with Nick Aldis. Because just imagine the potential of this scenario where Chelsea Green is getting so mad that Nick Aldis does not give her the match she deserves or a high-profile match, that this leads to the WWE in-ring return to Mickie James. Just saying. I'm just going to spitball it out here. It's what I do. I say things, and if they come true, I look like a genius. And if they don't come true, then it's just something awesome that people say, you know what, I still want to see that. So I don't lose. It's great. But if this can be something done, I love it. But yeah, no, this draft is going to be fun. I have a feeling this is going to be the most entertaining and draft we look forward to. But the one thing I want to kind of get back to is those SmackDown tag team titles, because we saw remnants of earlier tag team titles, and really the tag team titles that we saw in the Attitude Era. Now, Cody Rhodes has gone on record as saying that he wants to change the look of that Universal title back to the Winged Eagle. He said that on the Pat McAfee show. And I believe it was the day after he won the championship, too. Now, if by chance after this draft you have Cody Rhodes, A-Town Down Under, and right now Sami Zayn, the current Intercontinental Champion, do you see maybe the Intercontinental Championship, or maybe even if it's the United States title? Could we see a more old school change to that title design? I'm saying the Intercontinental right now because we're talking about changes that are resembling the Attitude Era. Well, we saw Intercontinental title in the Attitude Era. We didn't see the U.S. title. So that's why I'm bringing it up. I have a theory that now it's been known that in the past, WWE, if they do not want to associate themselves anymore with somebody, they kind of phase that person out. in almost every entity of the books. They remove the pictures or the graphics from signature to the show, or they replace that person. They don't mention them. They kind of just slightly refrain from anything about that superstar. I wonder if they're doing that with Vince. Not so much not mentioning him, but anything that was tied to Vince, whether it's a logo, a design, anything like that. And Triple H just wants to put his own spin on everything. I could see that down the road. So I'd be very interested. I do expect that when Raw hits Netflix and when SmackDown and NXT hit the USA Network, I do think all three brands are going to get a modification to their logo. And I think it should be done, especially if Raw goes to Netflix. It's a big change. It's a new beginning, and it's something worth looking into, if you ask me. The only logo I don't think changes is the WWE logo, because that's tattooed on every title right now, and that's just an expensive change. And let's face it, it's an iconic logo now. It just is. Yeah. So, in a nutshell, this is kind of what the last week of WWE it's been like. Now, we do have Dynasty, AEW Dynasty tonight. So if you're watching that, whether or not you're watching it on Fight TV, whether you're watching it on your pay-per-view provider, or you're watching it on, say, Thriller TV, cheap plugs to all of those. So if you want to give me a freebie, I'm okay with that. Yeah, hope you enjoy it. It does look like a pretty stacked show on paper. You got Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson. You got you got Swerve Strickland going up against Samoa Joe. I mean, those matches in itself are good. Who thinks Swerve Strickland is walking out with that AEW World Title? Because I do. I think we're getting a swerve in this match. So, yeah. I don't know what. I'm not the world's biggest follower of AEW. I'm not going to lie. But if you like the style that Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson provide you, you're going to probably love this match. So, and I hope you enjoy it well, but understand that, there's probably going to be people out there that will say it's not my tea, or say they don't like it. And I'm just going to say this: don't worry about what other people say. If you love it, you love it. If you don't love it, don't love it. Enjoy what you watch, but if you don't, focus on what you do enjoy. We're now at that point of time where cut the shit out, people. Just cut it out. Do not go on a social media forum and crap on somebody's opinion just because you don't agree with it. We're older, we're wiser, we should be more mature than this. So, yeah, cut it out. There's healthy debate, and then there's being a dick. So, you can have a healthy debate, just don't be a dick. So, or, do what everybody else is doing. Get your own platform and bitch about whatever you want. But, I mean, at the end of the day, AEW has a a really intriguing show. One, I hope it's not like 4 hours because that would be a lot. But it doesn't look half bad. I mean, you got FTR, you got the Young Bucks. Whether or not you like them or not, I mean, you know that they put out, they go all out in that. I mean, I love FTR. I think they're amazing. I'm not a huge Young Bucks fan, but I'm slightly intrigued. It is, I think, the rubber match. So, on the 0 hour show, you got titles for titles. You have the Ring of Honor Trios titles going up against the AEW Trios titles, as the Bang Bang Club is going up against Billy Gunn and the Acclaimed. You have Matt Sydal versus Trent Beretta. And you have Shane Taylor and Lee Moriarty going up against Orange Cassidy and Shibata. So that is on your pre-show. On the actual show, we've talked about Joe and Swerve Strickland, Bryan Danielson versus Will Ospreay. Julia Hart will defend her championship, her TBS championship against Willow Nightingale. Got Adam Copeland, Eddie Kingston, and Mark Briscoe versus the House of Black. That FTR versus the Young Bucks match will be for the tag team titles in a ladder match. You got Timeless Toni Storm defending her AEW Women's title against Thunder Rosa. Okada versus Pac for the Continental Championship, along with Roderick Strong defending his international title against Kyle O'Reilly, which I'm going to put out as the dark horse match of the night. And then you have Hook defending against Chris Jericho for that FTW Championship. Look for Jericho to win the title there. If you want my predictions for the whole thing, I will go Okada over Pac, Strong over O'Reilly, Toni Storm over Thunder Rosa, and I think we have something happen there after the match. I think maybe one of Mercedes Moné or Chris Statlander will be there waiting for the winner. The Young Bucks versus FTR. I'm picking the Young Bucks to win this match simply because I expect the Motor City Machine Guns to debut tonight and to have a stare down with the Young Bucks. I think Copeland, Eddie Kingston, and Mark Briscoe are going to defeat the House of Black. I think Julia Hart is going to retain her title. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it makes more sense that Mercedes Moné cost Willow Nightingale that match. I think Will Ospreay defeats Bryan Danielson, and I think Swerve Strickland takes the AEW World title. That is my predictions. If you're asking me about the 0 hour show, then I will quickly go with Trent Beretta defeating Matt Sydal. I will go with Orange Cassidy Shibata winning over Shane Taylor and Lee Moriarty. And I think the Bang Bang Club defeats the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn. And I think this leads to a potential split in the Acclaim. Or maybe this is when they do. I don't know. But I think that's what we're heading to. So that's my prediction for Dynasty. You guys probably didn't expect me to hit you with a Dynasty prediction, but yeah, what? Sometimes you just don't know what you're going to get. So that is what it is. I am going to also, I have in the description, and I'm going to just put this out there. I am going to do Q&As on every show moving forward. If you guys have any questions that you want to ask, I will open up a part at the end of the show. So like now would be kind of that point that if you want to get any questions out, very much anything at all, opinions on anything, I will give you my honest to God opinion. I will even talk about stuff I've done in the past, whether it's my career, whether it's on other platforms. Now, I am not going to stand here and badmouth things, but I am going to give you a little bit of a more honest to God why I'm in this position instead of that position. But I am not going to take this platform and dump on people or a place, because that is not my style. I'm not that guy. So if that's what you're looking for, you're not going to get it. So if you do have any questions, this is the time to do that. If not, I will kind of give you guys about 2 minutes. And then if you don't have anything, I will then give you my socials, tell you where you can find me. But in the meantime, I will ask this. If you're on the platforms and you want to do your best to help support the show, hit that follow button. If you're on Facebook, hit that follow button. Like these comments, like these shows, share these shows. If you're on YouTube, like, follow, subscribe. And if you're on Twitch, follow, subscribe. If you want a sub, please do. Now, all these things I know could cost money. And I'm not asking you to spend all this money just on me. That is your choice. If you want to, I appreciate that. But following and subscribing to a channel, that's free. So please do that. That goes a long way. That helps out the show. If you ever are on rogueenergy.com, maybe you want to try some of their amazing product. The blue raspberry. I'm just going to say, I like it. You might too. But at the end, when you're going to pay and it asks you, do you have any promo codes? Perish, Perish, saves you 10%. If you're not going to use any codes, you might as well just save some 10% there. I'm trying to help you, and in return, it helps me. So we both win in that scenario. But I think that's going to do it for episode 20 of the Chris Perish podcast. Check back on all platforms on Spotify, because the Chris Perish podcast is on Spotify. And yes, if you ask, hey, when will episode 20 be on Spotify? Well, in around an hour after the live show that you're watching right now. After the show, I download the episode and I upload it on Spotify, and it's on there as soon as I possibly can. So yeah, that is how soon it is on. If again you want to follow me, my socials, like you will see at the end of the video, are on X at Chris Perish. My TikTok is at Chris Perish. My Instagram and Threads is chris.perish. And yeah, follow me on my Twitch at the Chris Perish, my YouTube at Chris Perish, my Facebook at the Chris Perish. Any comments or booking qualities or inquiries, please email me at Perishute, PERISHUTE at gmail.com. Also check my emails to get into the Discord. I want to try to kind of use that Discord a little bit more than I do. So yeah, please do that. In the meantime, I just ask you, enjoy your Sunday, be safe, be responsible, be happy, and more importantly, go Saints.